Coming up on episode 173 of Creative Writing, I'm talking about establishing healthy relationships with your readers.
I can't go back to sleep, it's almost light. These restless thoughts have kept me up again tonight.
Hello and welcome to Creative Writing. This is the podcast for you, an author who wants to sell more books without being smarmy. And if you just gasped as you're listening to this, it may be because you're a longtime listener and I just changed my tagline, which used to be, "This is the podcast for you, writers, bloggers, and creatives who want to build an online platform without being smarmy." And really that's still true. However, I have been slowly shifting towards what was actually my goal kind of from the get-go with this podcast, which is to focus on writers, authors, and non-smarmy marketing. So we're just tightening this up. It's for authors who want to sell more books without being smarmy. To sell more books, you need platform. But I think selling more books is a lot more of a tangible thing than platform, which is kind of an amorphous, weird, blobby kind of word. We know what we mean by sell more books. And so anyway, we're moving to a new tagline, you guys. It's fall. Is that why I smell new pencils and notebooks in the air as my kids start school and I'm thinking about fresh starts? Maybe. I've been thinking about this for a while, actually, and I think this is a really good fit for where we are. But have no fear. If you are listening and you're a blogger or you're a creative or you're just somebody in the online space who likes the things you're learning here about marketing, then you can still be here and listen. That doesn't mean I'm excluding you, but I am focusing in and speaking directly to the writers and authors in the bunch. So I'm excited today to talk about something that few people talk about. And if you are someone who is blogging or you're an influencer and you found this podcast, this is really going to be good for you as well, even if a lot of my examples are dealing with authors. This is a question no one talks about, which is the relationship and the distance that you should actually have to set up a healthy relationship with your readers. And in this age of internet, it's so important to do this, and we don't. So let's talk about this. Now, if you want to find the show notes for this episode, you can go to creativewriting.com/173. And if you want to make sure you're getting my emails and updates, I'm actually updating the quick fix, my weekly email, just a little bit as well. You can go to creativewriting.com/quick fix, and that's going to get you my Friday emails, which have tips, resources. I'm going to add in some other exciting bits to the quick fix, but it's going to be things you don't want to miss every week delivered to your inbox. So let's talk this week about the distance, establishing a healthy relationship between yourself and your readers. And this is something I see people messing up all the time and having to step back from social media and the internet. And so it's really highly important to talk about this. And I'll keep hammering why it's so important as I get to further on into the episode. But this is, again, something I don't hear people talking about a lot. I don't think a lot of people consider this before they start. So you may not have. I didn't. When I started blogging, I was already a writer, but when I was blogging, I was sharing super personal stuff. I was sharing birth stories and really intimate things and pictures of my kids constantly. And that morphed into a lifestyle blog and less sharing about my kids and more sharing recipes and things like that. But I was incredibly personal because I tend to be a no holds barred kind of person. But the internet has also changed a lot since, 2005, 2007, when I was blogging those personal things. So you may not have thought about this either, but it's not too late to do this. And you may have already set without even thinking intentionally about it, you may have already set some of these boundaries in place, but they matter, they're important, and authors can wreck their career by not doing this well. So I'll share some examples that I've seen even just recently, changing some names and details so that I'm making sure not to throw anyone under the bus. So hopefully you won't recognize anybody in there. That's not my intent, is for you to go out and figure out who I'm talking about. Okay, so let's talk about this. And to talk about it, we've got to kind of look at the journey that I'll call it the journey from the ivory tower to Instagram. And, one of the things that I talk about a lot when I talk about platform building for authors is the fact that we're in an age this digital age that's really amazing in terms of allowing this connectivity and this relationship at all between authors and readers. I know as a, avid reader as a child, I would actually look in the books to see, is there an address where I can write a message, a postcard, a letter to this author to say how much I love their books? And there usually wasn't. There was like the publisher, I guess if I'd emailed the publishers in New York, it would have gotten there eventually, but it didn't seem like that would work to me. So I just never did. And my mom refused to mail the postcards I wrote to Michael Jackson as a child. And now I'm kind of glad, actually. when I was 5, that's who I was writing fan mail to, and she wouldn't mail it. But we didn't have an address from him either. But we could have, in the digital age, we could have tweeted him. I mean, maybe he never would have seen it, probably not. However, that's what we've changed to. It used to be that authors were this inaccessible person that was larger than life and lived up in this ivory tower that you couldn't see them unless you went, to a book tour or a book signing or something, which, back before the internet, how did you even hear about these things? I don't even know. I guess bookstores would have a sign. I really don't remember how that worked. And I didn't really go to book signings, maybe because word of mouth wasn't really good for that. And so I never connected with my authors, my favorite authors. And in fact, it was really neat. A couple of years ago, got to take one of my nephews who likes writing as well. And one of my favorite authors from when I was in middle school, I guess, Gordon Corman, came and did a book signing, and I got to meet him. And it was like, I wanted to write letters to you, tell you how much I liked your books when I was like 12, and now I get to meet you, and that was really cool. But we've gone from that ivory tower thing to the Instagram age where you can find out what your favorite author ate for lunch, or their kids' names, or see the new shoes that they're thinking about buying. In fact, your favorite author might have a poll on Facebook asking you whether or not they should buy that new pair of shoes. They might be sharing a live video of themselves from their living room, or doing Insta stories and sharing really intimate details of their life with you. It's a totally different age. The switch has completely flipped. And honestly, I think this goes back to reality TV, where when that started, I don't think anyone expected it to come, but we're very curious as people, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And reality TV showed just how curious we were about normal people and the very inane details, and then some of the dramatic details of their lives, and how much we love that. And now we have social media that allows everybody, in a sense, to have their own reality TV show. But you still get to pick and choose what goes on there. And that's really what is so important to talk about, because we now are giving people access to our lives, both as people just in general using social media, but especially as authors. When we're trying to build a career, we have to be way more intentional than the average person when we are giving access to our readers, to all these different bits and pieces of our lives. So it's amazing, and it can be, but just as social media can be damaging, and this connection to strangers and people all over the world can be damaging to regular people, it can be, again, even more so to authors and wreck your career. So I want to share some examples of things that I've seen recently that have made me really want to talk about this and address this as an issue. So these are actual things I've seen. Again, I might have changed some of the details because my hope is maybe only a few of you might happen to have seen some of these things, but like some of them are really general. I've seen a lot of them, and then there's a few specific that I've kind of changed details to. Okay, so I've seen readers demanding and demanding, like in a public space, like a Facebook group or on a Facebook page or on Twitter, that authors finish their favorite series faster. Authors are getting angry emails or having public rants when their books in a series take longer than sometimes even like a month to publish, which if you consider traditional, obviously this is an indie problem, because traditional books, there's people who have spent years between books in a series, but indies, there's also kind of this expectation that your books are going to come out faster. And so I've seen readers demand that they come out faster. I've seen authors promise in their emails and Facebook groups that books are coming out and then miss the deadline. Readers get angry, and then the authors just disappear instead of responding, or they get super defensive, or have a list of excuses, and then the excuses keep coming and coming and coming. And then readers get madder. I've seen readers bullying authors and personal assistants. I've seen authors rallying their reader groups and their fan groups on Twitter to attack other authors or public figures, or to launch a campaign of 1-star reviews, or even to report low reviews on their own books as abuse to Amazon, even though they're not. I've seen readers in an author group get nasty and mean with each other, and the author or the people running it not doing anything about it at all, just letting it happen. Authors have received nasty personal emails about their families, not just about their books, and about their personal lives or their choices. I've seen readers give up on authors and announce it publicly. Of course, we've got to announce everything publicly. Announcing it publicly because the authors didn't do what the readers wanted, or the authors told them what they'd do and then didn't. I've seen authors apologize profusely because they aren't doing exactly what the readers are demanding. And in one kind of crazy, there was one day I sat around and watched this Facebook group kind of implode. It's an authors group. And there was kind of this comment thread that happened that got a little bit nasty. And then someone got mad and people started messaging the author. And so then the author apparently made a comment about killing off characters, and that would show their readers. And then the readers got upset. And then people started all posting these public things about how they're all leaving the group because this group is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and the author is A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It basically was like a little thing that escalated, and the author fed into it escalating, and everybody just went crazy for like a full day. And it impacted, a lot of people left the group. It impacted some events the author had planned. And it all started from something really small that just didn't get taken care of the way it should have, and just kind of went a little bit crazy. So those are all some different examples. And I think you can agree with me that these are really unhealthy, and they're not uncommon. Okay, the last one was really like a specific one, but I've seen different things like that in these various groups. And it just shows that all access, like giving an all access pass, is not a good thing. You don't want to give people an all access pass, not only just to the details and personal things in your life. It's not just about if you share photos of your kids or your loved ones. It's an all access pass to your emotions, an all access pass for them to say whatever they feel to you, publicly or privately. So all access passes are bad. There's got to be some kind of boundaries that you set up. So let's talk about how to create healthy boundaries. Now, the reality is this: there's not one way to do this. And that's kind of my advice with most things. There's not one right way. It's going to look different for different authors. So I'm going to give you some things generally that you can consider as you're trying to establish these boundaries, and then you can decide for yourself what the best option for you is. Because you could do the best job ever with these boundaries, and still have people lash out at you. I mean, I really try hard to do a good job at this, and I get angry emails sometimes as well. In fact, actually, this was pretty funny. A couple weeks ago, I got an angry email from someone, and I was like, man, what did I do? And I hit reply and just apologized. I didn't get defensive, but I just said, sorry you feel that way. I'll unsubscribe you. And they responded back and were like, I am so sorry. That was supposed to go to somebody else. So you never know, but things happen sometimes. So we're not going to all agree, and we're not going to all have the same relationship and boundaries with our readers, but here are some things to think about. Okay, so starting off, decide how many personal things and what kinds of personal things you want to share. Maybe your food photos are shareable, but your family photos are not. I know some people don't name their kids on the blogs or on any kind of social media. Some people have no pictures of them or their faces. And as you know, we're all kind of growing up in a sense with all this social media. And so there's a whole generation of children whose parents didn't think about or consider their children's privacy. We all just posted everything and didn't think like, oh, one day my kid's going to be 17. They're not going to want this naked picture of them as a baby on the internet. This is a thing that really wasn't considered. People weren't thinking long-term with social media. And so now I see a lot more parents saying, because of my child's privacy, I'm not posting this. So decide, whether it's family or something else, what are those personal things you are going to share? And if you need to make a change, because this may change. Like I used to share a whole lot of every photo of every kind with my kids, because again, when I started blogging and it was a personal blog, I did get a lot of traffic because I was kind of early on the scene and I shared everything because that's kind of my thing. And, but then I started getting like really creepy search terms for people finding my blog, looking for really icky stuff. And that, I'd already kind of opened Pandora's box to share everything about my kids, and I didn't necessarily stop that. And I still on my personal Facebook share pictures of them, and on Instagram, which is public, but not often. I really pulled way back when I started seeing things like that. It really disturbed me. So, you reevaluate as you go, but consider what personal things you're going to share from your life. And then you may want to pull that back or let some out. It just is up to you. The second thing is to choose the platform that feels, or platforms that feel the best and healthiest for you. I've shared this before as well, that you may not want to be everywhere. You may want to choose a few places or one place to focus your time and attention. So think about what makes you happy. Think about a place that on its own has a culture that you really like. Do you feel happy when you're on Instagram? Then that might be a good place for you. I don't feel happy on Instagram, which is why I have an Instagram profile and I'm not ever on there because it's just, I don't like going on there, and maybe that will change too. But think about the platform that's going to already start with you feeling healthy and happy there. Because if you're stretched too thin also between all these different platforms, that's going to impact how you interact as well. Consider establishing a space that offers you control. So let's talk about Twitter, for example. Twitter, there's no groups, it's just Twitter. Now, if someone starts bullying you or being rude, you can report it to Twitter. I will say that in my issues that I've had over time with Twitter, there is not a person I've ever been able to get. Now, they're probably a lot better with things like bullying and abuse, but depends on what that is to them. You could feel personally attacked, but Twitter may not feel that way. So I don't know how easy it is to get things reported and taken down. Twitter, everything's public. And so it's all really right out there for people to see. And that can be a really scary thing. There can be, I've seen really big mob mentality type of things happen on Twitter. I like Twitter, but it does not feel like a safe space to me. It is not the space where I would share a lot. Facebook groups really are it for me, as you guys probably know. And if you're not in our community, please consider joining. It's a very healthy, happy community, and I'll talk more about that in a second, but that's creativewriting.com/community. That allows you to have control. So if I feel like people are being ugly in the group, I can talk to them, which is usually what I do first, or I can boot them from the group. I can delete their comments. I have control. If I need to, I can block them completely, talk to Facebook about them. And Facebook is not like Twitter. You actually can get someone there. It's a little bit hard to do that as well, but it's possible, and more possible than somewhere like Twitter, where I spent a year trying to get someone to help me why my Twitter account kept getting shut down. And it took having a huge connection. Hey, Madeline Sklar, who's like the Twitter expert, who talked to someone who worked at Twitter. And I was like, can you please, for the love of all that's Twitter, talk to this person and tell them my account keeps getting blocked for suspicious activity and I'm not doing anything. And she said, I don't know what happened, but anyway, they didn't get back to her, but my account is now unflagged, at least until now that I'm talking so much about Twitter. Shh, don't listen, Twitter. But anyway, I tried for like a year. I could not get a person. So choosing a platform that allows you to have control, that has people in place also that will help with those protections. And so for me, that place is a Facebook group, but it might be something else for you. But if you have a closed group on Facebook, people can't just come and troll from the outside. You have to approve membership as well. So that's even more control. It's not just that people outside can't see the group. So if you have a public group, people can see everything in the group and what they're posting. If you have a closed group, and they just changed the settings on this, and so the terminology might be a little bit different on there now. But if you have a group where people have to join to see what's happening in the group, that in and of itself is a little bit more safety. And then you set the tone in your spaces. And this is kind of what I think that one author failed to do when they had that big blow up is you're setting the tone, not only in how you talk to people, but in the kind of talking and conversation you allow in your group. You set that tone. You get to decide, is this ugly comment? Is this person who keeps being critical? Do they get to keep being critical? And often I've actually had good responses from privately messaging people being like, you know what, you're a little bit harsh. And then if they're harsh again, they're out. I've already talked to them about being harsh. I don't want people being harsh in my groups. I'm all for honesty, but honesty doesn't have to be harsh, you guys. Okay? Because sometimes it's just harsh in and of itself to hear an honest answer, especially if you're asking about like feedback on a book cover or blurb. You don't have to be extra harsh on top of that. It's already hard to hear. You set that tone. You decide what your community and your space, how it feels, how people talk to each other. And then you get to police that, which again, when Facebook groups get out of control, I'm really thankful our group has grown slowly, organically over time. I don't have a 10,000 person group. And I'm going to be real sad on the day when I get that because, you know, we're at like 2,500, maybe somewhere around there. And it's still possible. And every so often things get out of control, but I've done really a lot of work to set that tone in the group and continue to set the tone in the group. And you may not always see that, but I feel like people are happy in the group and talk about the fact that the group is a very healthy space. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I have helped establish how we talk to each other. And when it doesn't happen, then I take action. I don't let some kind of thing go on where people are being rude and awful to each other. It just doesn't happen. So you're the one who sets this tone, which again is why you need to have some control in the space that you're setting up for yourself. Okay. And this is one that's like not just social media. This could be email lists. It could be everywhere, but don't make promises that you can't keep. And I see this a lot. And this is such a huge mistake. Now we're always not always, we're not going to be perfect. I'll say we are probably going to fail our readers. We're going to fail our audience at some point. However, I see a lot of times authors making these promises. And then if you realize you're going to break one, instead of coming clean and being upfront about that, just sort of disappearing. So an author that I really like, this is where I see a lot of the push and pull, is when an author has started a series, readers are invested, and then the author either drops the series or starts writing another series or just doesn't finish it and people are waiting. So there's a series I like, and the books were published pretty quickly, like for a year, maybe something like that. So not super fast, but like a bunch. And then the last one that came out, it's been a year and a half. And the author on their email and Facebook groups made it sound like the next book was going to come out later that year. There's a teaser already in the back of the book, so you know that there's like an idea of where it's going. Didn't come. Last December, okay, it's going to come, well, first it said it was going to come out last year. Then in December, it's going to come soon in this year. And the author just announced it's not coming till next year. Now, I think that there are some personal issues and a little bit has been posted, but I follow the person on all their accounts and they really have not done a great job of explaining exactly or apologizing. And I do think there is a place for apology. No, we don't owe anything to our readers, but at the same time, we kind of do. And this is that weird push and pull that happens that makes this so important, is we do have a relationship that's built on trust. And there is some push and pull there. So as a reader and an author, as a reader, I get really frustrated when I like the series. And so the author not only has failed on the promises and not kept the deadlines that they committed and not really apologized and explained too much about why, they've continued publishing other things. And they're not selling well, and readers aren't happy about it. They want the author to do this one series that they're waiting on. There's all these cliffhangers and stories to be told and connected things. But instead, they're writing what they feel like writing, which, as an author, I get that. You're writing what you feel. But there are these readers and you've established this trust, you've gotten them hooked in your story, and then you're kind of just dropping them. And so I feel like there's a give and take. And what it looks like for you, it needs to be healthy, because I've also seen authors profusely apologize, bend over backwards, get really awkwardly sorry, like these awkward apologies where you're like, oh man, you do not need to apologize that much for this. Like this is, you're the author, you're in charge, okay? You are in charge. The readers are not in charge. You still are in charge. It's good when your readers care. It's good when they give you opinions, but you are still in charge. And so I've seen authors go to the other extreme of that and be so profusely apologetic that it lets the readers run all over them. And so this last one, these kind of flow together, is that you need to make sure your readers know that you are the one in charge. And that means that you have to take charge. Just like you're setting the tone in your group, you are setting the tone in how the readers treat you. Serving your readership is great. Creating a connection can be wonderful. But if you let the readers think that they own you, it's like toddlers. And I don't mean to demean readers. Again, I'm a reader, but it is in a way like toddlers. If you let them think that they're in charge, they'll take charge of you. And they will be more demanding. They will be really difficult. So if you're letting people talk to you that way, if you're apologizing to that degree, that allows them to feel like they can continue to be demanding and make you serve them, then you're really setting the tone for that kind of relationship with them. They're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy. It's not going to end well. So you need to find a balance between making the decisions that you want because you're in charge, and also serving the readership, especially if you've built up a large readership and then you break their trust. You may not recover. Like I'm watching this author whose books I want to finish the series, but I don't know. I've lost a lot of faith in the author, to be honest. And so as an author, I get it. As a reader, I also see how it feels to be on the other side of that broken trust. And so it's all about finding that. And kind of the last thing is keep control of your emotions. There's like an emotional distance and an emotional maturity that you need. And going back to the author who made the offhand comment that they were going to kill off some characters, because they were mad at their own readers about something. No, that didn't need to be posted. And to the author's defense, like someone else, like their moderator actually posted that, like, hey, the author just said this. They shouldn't have posted that. The author probably said that in confidence. They probably said it offhand. Like it probably was not meant to be serious, but then it blew up into a thing where then readers left because they're mad at the author for like, you got mad at us and then you threatened to kill characters. Now we're going. This shouldn't happen. Okay. We're all emotional. We get emotional about our art. We get emotional about our work. We don't need to be like middle schoolers. We don't need to be the later seasons of MTV's The Real World. We can be more like the early seasons of MTV's The Real World, which I really liked and tried to apply for. But the later seasons where it was just drama, we don't need to be drama, okay? We can be authors who do not have that kind of drama, unless that's your brand. And I know some authors and that's their brand. Not my thing. And I really think that can backfire if you continue to let drama feed and emotions feed. That doesn't mean you can't ever be honest about your emotions, honest about disappointments, honest about fears, honest about different things. Again, this is your choice. And I think sometimes allowing yourself to show those emotions to your readership can be something that really does build that trust in the bond. But if you're emotional all the time and you're doing these knee-jerk posts and these knee-jerk requests that later you're having to go and delete, you need to step it back a bit and give yourself some time and space and not post in an emotional like moment. And that could be like, it solve a lot of problems if people just didn't post emotionally. So all of these things are good things to think about, and they really do matter. Again, I'm seeing all of these practical ways that not establishing these boundaries is becoming very unhealthy for authors, and it's creating just a really ugly, icky feeling in these reader groups and between readers and authors. It's coming out. I'm seeing a lot of, I've seen a lot lately of low reviews where people haven't even read the book and they post a low review because they're mad at something else the author did. There's just a lot of really unhealthy stuff. And a lot of it stems from the boundaries that have not been established well. So even if you never thought about it and you already have a big audience, this is something you can think about now and think about all these questions. And so if you don't remember the questions and you want to go back and look at them, head over to creativewriting.com/173 for episode 173 so that you can take a look at these questions and really evaluate how you want to establish the relationship and the boundaries with your readers. That's it for this week. I'm really excited that we're moving back into the school year because my kids will be in school. That's what the school year means. I don't homeschool. My kids have school. The two youngest ones are in preschool, which means 2 days a week I have a quiet house. I don't have to record at midnight like I do in the summers. And so I might be getting to you guys more consistently with once a week podcasts. I also reserve the right, and I don't want to break your trust, but I'm just reserving the right that healthfully I might need to cut back some still to work on other things that are making me money and things that need to have more of a focus. But I love being here, and I hope that it does serve you well. And now it's time for you to go out and create content that you love and serve your people well.